Rishi Coupland, who's the Director of Research and Innovation at the BFI, and Monisha Advani, who's the CEO of Emmay Entertainment, which is going to be among India's top 5 production houses in the last decade and a half. So I wanted to start, first of all, with this sort of meteoric rise in demand for Indian content that we're seeing across the globe, these sort of big shifts in audience behavior and production. Do you think this is a temporary trend, or do you think that the global center of storytelling is starting to shift?
Should I?
Go.
Firstly, thank you so much for being here. I didn't realize so many people were interested in the business of Indian content. It's warming. And I want to tell you that when I read the question about meteoric rise, I was a bit curious myself, because we are very often, I tend to be a little controversial, guys, I should just warn you. We're very often told that Indian content is for the Indian diaspora. And I take a lot of umbrage to that, because when you look at the interest that is generated in content which is put out by Sanjay Leela Bhansali, a Hira Mandi goes and tops charts at Netflix world over, or you have a small little film like Lapata Ladies that finds its way to be understood by people who are non-Hindi speaking. I think it's fair to say that there is a demand that goes beyond just the Indian diaspora for our content. And I think if we were to take a page from a tiny country called South Korea, and have that kind of confidence, and I think people sitting here, if they are as interested as they are, please support us so that we get that meteoric rise. Rishi, over to you.
Yeah, I think the mistake would be to think that the rise has happened, and there's not plenty more to go. I think India has one of the youngest populations in the world, actually, and pretty big population, obviously. So all those young people are going to bring new ideas and new stories and build on India's traditional storytelling to bear. So actually what's interesting is what happens next, I think. In terms of speed of adaptation, I was at the Waves conference. I'm sure many other people here were also here at the Waves conference, and it feels like there's a new energy. The new energy has at its heart that this twin idea that in India there can be an absolute belief in the kind of craft of storytelling and the stories that everyone comes back to, but actually there can be very new ways of telling it. So that speed of adaptation will be very important. At the BFI, what we are seeing is that we are very interested in the ways that the UK and India can collaborate. Very recently been lucky to see some amazing films come around which are UK-India collaborations, from All We Imagine Is Light, which did very well at Cannes, to Sister Midnight, Santosh and others. Actually, this stuff has happened all the time, but I think if you look at these latest films, what's super interesting is the diversity of ways in which the interaction of storytelling can happen, from Indian crews to UK storytellers, but then diasporal storytellers coming in there as well, and sort of Indian expertise in the form of storytelling. There's actually a hugely layered approach to collaboration that's very, very exciting.
That's interesting. And I think what's interesting is India's such a huge, diverse country, and we're seeing a lot of sort of regional content come out, sort of regional language content. What do you think makes those stories travel so well at the moment, and what sort of makes them so popular? Sort of like algorithm, luck, or do you think it's a sort of just the stories themselves?
I think technology plays a big role in shrinking the globe. And I think curiosity is the thing that makes this content travel. It makes this content interesting. When you look at the way we look at Indian restaurants, for instance, we've moved a long way from being a harbinger of doom for the stomach. And people are actually today talking about Indian cuisine as being hot cuisine that is great. And I think in that same context, our content is not seen as something that's isolating. It's actually seen as something that's very inclusive in the story, because at the end of the day, it's a story about a relationship, and irrespective of what part of the world we come from or what languages we speak, I think there's a beauty in being able to relate to emotion. Indian films tend to be more emotional. Regional or mainstream art house, I think at the end of the day, what really strikes and resonates is when the tuning fork is one that touches your heart. And I think that's something that there's a lot of authenticity we see in our regional cinema, which is being appreciated.
Rishi?
Yeah, I mean, maybe I'm being fanciful here, but I like to think there's a parallel between the UK and India in this respect. And when we've looked at how the world sees UK content, actually the way that films and TV in particular drive interest in visiting the UK and in understanding UK culture, and then the more you understand of UK culture and the different regional aspects of UK culture, the more that you want to see film and TV from there as well. I think that same virtuous cycle is happening in India. India's an amazing subcontinent to visit, to enjoy the various cultural parts of it, and now you can experience that in terms of the film and TV you see from there as well. And I'm not an expert in sort of Indian sort of cultural bureaucracy and the support there, but I've got to imagine, like in the UK, that there is it's the growth and the strength of regional governments and of regional centres of talent and development that's also encouraged this as well. There must be an infrastructure that's working to really build this. I mean, I can name, Collywood and Tollywood. These names are becoming known, and so actually that's all to the good because it increases the diversity of the brilliant content that we can all enjoy.
I think it's a combination. If I could just top up what Rishi said, and I think that we have really got strong leadership at the center that recognizes the power of the messages that our content puts forward. And I think exporting that content is one of the big agendas we take very seriously now. And at state level, you're quite right, Rishi. There's a lot of encouragement that is coming our way, but it's not enough. We need a lot more. And I think for that, a partnership that needs to be forged with global platforms and infrastructure that carry that content forward needs to be something we bring focus to. And I think that is one of the areas that we have a lot of work to do. I'm hoping BFI is one of those platforms that continues to support us and grows.
Definitely. The deal's being struck right here, it seems. Yes, let's go for it.
There you go.
So, Monisha, what do you think makes an international partner a good partner? What are you looking for?
It's an interesting question. We've done a couple of films with support internationally, one of them most recently being Mrs. Chatterjee versus Norway. And that was a film that we were up against a lot of challenges. Nobody wanted to back that story because they couldn't understand. When we took it to Indian funders, they turned around and said, what is the chance that people would know what Norway is? They know Switzerland, they know how to go on vacation in London. Who knows anything about Norway? Why do you want to tell a story about Norway? And it was right there. And I can tell you, when we put the message out, the Estonian government turned around and said, you know what? It's COVID. You're going to need infrastructure support. Come, we'll give you a rebate. We'll help you, subsidize the cost of producing this and help you with the production. And full props to them. So I think that when it's a story, and Estonia doesn't feature in the story at all. There was no presence of them. It was Norway that we were, gunning for. And I think that therein lies the opportunity when you see content creation as not just about promoting a destination or just about telling a story about a particular country or something that you believe is going to resonate with the cliches that one assumes a consumer would take to. I think Mrs. Chatterjee versus Norway is a story about Indian immigrants in Norway, a film that was made by Indian producers with the support of Estonia and which found an audience all over the world, which is fantastic, really.
And I know, Rishi, at the BFI, you're also trying to encourage international collaboration. What are you seeing on the ground at the moment? What do you think makes a good international partnership?
I mean, I think first of all, it's enormously important to us. We want to be a country that's sort of open to the world and to cultural exchange. And yes, there's a trade element to that. These industries, cultural, creative industries, are big business, but actually the simple act of cultural exchange is very, very important. I think two things stick in my mind when I think about what makes these partnerships work. One is vision and the other is know-how. The vision is very important and really just building on your point there. You've got to you can't break it down to just a balance sheet of this will work and this won't work. You have to have some kind of vision as to what makes the real creative chemistry work when you make international collaboration work. And I was really encouraged with the independent filmmakers who've recently done recent work for the first time, UK production companies in India.
Right.
They're really, really enthusiastic to go back and do more. And actually, because they have this vision that there's more stories to tell and more interesting avenues to explore. And the know-how side is, whether it be film or TV or video games, getting the financing together, making a project work is intensely complicated, very hard work, and you need partners with the kind of know-how to help you navigate these international things. We are starting to see really encouraging between UK and India things like the international treaties and co-production arrangements have more take-up. As well as the kind of incentives. So on a practical level, that know-how plus the infrastructure is, I think, that it's definitely there. Otherwise, nothing would happen. But the vision is really gratifying to see people come along and take up.
Mm-hmm. So I want to ask you both about AI. Obviously, AI in the arts, huge topic. Monisha, we'll start with you. What do you think about AI in the arts? Do you think that there's a day in the future where you get a script written by AI and you want to produce it?
Well, I wouldn't be averse to it. I'll be honestly very cautious and equally optimistic, because I think that AI at the end of the day is built by what we've fed into it. And its interpretation perhaps would be another original or another definition of original. I like that wink. That was nice. You just stole my cue there. But what is original at the end of the day? I mean, there are interpretations of Shakespeare all over. There are interpretations of our great epics, Indian epics all over. So we just saw a segment which talked about gaming, which was based on some of that. And I think that's fantastic. So I think embracing technology, it takes me back to the time where more recently, about 10 years ago, when digital cameras came in and filmmakers said, no way, it's only film that we will make content on. And suddenly you found ourselves turning around and saying, now I want to see how many people use film. So as a producer, it's a sword that we walk on, but I'm happy to turn around and say that as controversial as that sounds, I wouldn't be averse to the idea of listening to a script generated on AI.
Would you be worried about sort of losing that human element that you talked about earlier?
Not really. Again, like I said, it's something that's tutored by human experience and human insight. So I think if we were to see it in light of that, it's curiosity that's driving me right now. And so with caution and curiosity, definitely would explore it.
Interesting. Rishi, what do you think?
Yeah, it's a good timing to ask me the question. We've just, a couple of weeks ago, published the BFI's report into AI in the screen sector called Perspectives and Paths Forward, which is a summary of everything we're seeing happening at the moment and a roadmap for how we think it should be taken forward. And I think to that extent, look, it is a tool that we see having two things, increasing disruption to standard ways of doing things, and some increasing opportunities as well, really interesting opportunities. And actually, the way forward for us is how you balance those things. I was at a talk once, I was talking about AI, and someone asked me a question, and they said, a little bit similar to yours, but more specific, they said, will AI write Dark Side of the Moon? This classic 60s, I think, 70s maybe, album that stood the test of time. And I think my answer was, well, two things here. First is nobody is setting out with that intention. People want human-led stories. That's what they want. AI can create anything. Accidentally, it might create something that passes for Dark Side of the Moon, but it's not. There's no intentionality there. You need some human intention there. And the second thing is, I think you're doing yourself a disservice if you're trying to use AI to kind of ape what human beings already have done. Actually, it's a whole different way of making things. It can produce some efficiencies, and efficiencies everybody will take and grab and use, and that's fine. But if you're going to use it creatively, you should expect it to do something different from what human beings can produce. And so it's not about replacing human creativity. It's about reinforcing it.
And what? Oh, sorry.
We just found what we disagreed on, right?
Go on.
See? We were worried outside whether we'd find something to disagree on. Or we did now.
Yeah, true.
I wanted to ask
Civilized, though, that's quite good.
Very.
In this nice setting.
Nice.
Yeah, it's a good way to disagree.
what do you think that the difference that you're talking about that sort of looks like in practice?
Between human and AI creativity?
No, as in when you talk about sort of AI creating a different type of output.
Well, I mean, a very simple thing to say is, at the moment, AI is a people pleaser. That by definition is, and that's written into the whole safeguards it's put there. And actually, when you look at some of the best creatives, they're not necessarily people pleasers. They can be lovely people, but there's an element of wanting to stretch boundaries, to do something that goes against the grain. So I think that's just one example of where AI can be a real spur. One person that I know who works there calls it the wild writer. It might produce an idea you've not thought of before. But it doesn't have, I think, the full suite of what we call human creativity, and it hasn't been designed to deliver that.
And at the moment, I know tech is changing so fast, but how are you using tech at the moment in sort of creative and production processes?
Well, I mean, it is driving efficiencies for us in terms of our inputs. One of the biggest challenges we face in our business is that the ambition to make films or content is always bigger than the budget. So anything that enables efficiency, so we use a lot of it where it comes to the documentation processes that are required in production, the kind of speed with which we're able to create breakdowns. I'm getting technical here, but the processes that we deploy, we're already seeing about 20 to 30% efficiencies coming in saving time and cost, in embracing some AI-led efficiency. Which is heartening, actually. And I don't think it's really causing us that much in terms of job losses. I think if there is a threat of job loss, I think it's going to be mine, because the producer is the one who is most dispensable in this process. However, having said that, I think what's interesting is that AI used right is able to really, to Rishi's point, really strengthen the hands of the creator and achieve that ambition, which the budget sometimes doesn't allow.
Interesting. Rishi?
So we know our strong feeling, people don't really talk about this very much, but our strong feeling is that the large studios are experimenting a lot with AI and also its combination with different technologies.
True.
And at every stage of what we call the pipeline as well of work, from the very administration side, so organizing your daily rushes. AI is actually pretty good at that. It's not something anyone talks about, but it's a ready-made task for it. Through to, ideation and generating ideas as well. We also look at the kind of emerging creator end, and so far for our film funds, about 10 to 15% we think of people who start early stage filmmakers who are starting a project intend to use AI in some way. Often it's about just checking function on scripts or and storyboarding. We see those numbers growing, and they're going to grow and grow and grow. There's other technologies as well as AI, and actually they're going to be very important in the whole screen sector as well. So in virtual production, yes, there's been a boom, and then it's oscillated a bit, but actually the latest developments in virtual production are making the technology, we think, much more accessible for lower budget films. We're seeing, one of the Oscar-winning films was made entirely in Blender, which is again a very accessible piece of technology. So we think there's been growth in accessible technology as well.
Yeah,
fantastic. I have one more very quick question for you both. I think we have about 30 seconds left. But have you seen anything recently, film or TV, that you wish you had worked on?
I think, I can do two things. I can say that I didn't work on it, but actually the BFI did. But a film called Bird by Andrea Arnold, which is a beautiful, beautiful film. And a lot of films seem to come out recently about father-daughter relationships, and I think that really resonates with me. So yeah.
For me, it would be the show Adolescent.
Oh yeah.
And I thought it was just incredible, the impact and how rapidly the show found itself enduring across markets. And it was just the simplicity of a human relationship, parenting. And that's all it takes, to my point earlier. which is it's not about the language, it's not about the packaging, it's really about the emotion that a story brings out. And that's what really helps us hopefully make those meteoric rises happen.
I think sadly that's all we've got time for, but thank you both very much.
Great.
For talking today.
Thank you.